Okay, here we go. Are you ready, Michael?
I'm ready.
All right. Here we are. Barry Beat Podcast live from Main Street in Barry in the Fly on the Wall production studio. And tonight we have with us, we are fortunate to have with us Sarah Pregent, who is, what is your current title as far as the school and city and
Mom.
those sorts of
No,
things?
I am a school board director representing Barre City for the Barre Unified Union School District.
And you are a Barry City resident.
I am.
And you this damn thing doesn't want to work. And you're a mom, like you said. You're a mom. You've lived here a long time.
My whole life.
Yeah. And then we have and you're going to be talking to this gentleman over here with us, Mr. Michael Boutin, who is running for a school board seat. And you are going to be holding him to the fire, we hope, asking him some tough questions.
I hope so.
And then we want everybody to know that they are more than welcome to also chime in, ask questions, make comments. Just be kind. We don't. I'm going to say it the way I say it, Michael, because it's my show tonight. No bullshit. I will delete you, block you immediately. No. That isn't what we do. This is for questions, and that's it. And answers. It's not for crappy, unkind commentary back and forth.
I appreciate it.
So, and that's how I run all of them. And so Michael and I talked about this, and we will be doing shows over the next several weeks with all candidates that are running for anything, whether it be school board, council seats, whatever is up there. Everybody always has an opportunity to come in here and do the same thing. They can sit down, be interviewed. I don't even know if we really want to call it an interview, but really just meet the candidate, learn about them, learn where they stand, what they want, ask the questions that you want to ask of them that you wouldn't otherwise get to ask. And so we invite everybody. And in doing so, we wanted to make sure that Michael was afforded that same opportunity, which is why we've asked you.
Thank
and
you.
And so we thank you very much for coming. And how do we want to start this? Do we want to start and let Michael open up and tell us who he is and his why? Or maybe would you like to shoot out a first question?
I'll go first. I don't mind. Thank you for having me. This is
Absolutely.
my first time down here in the
Aired out studio.
Yeah. Sorry. It is past my bedtime, so please all bear with me. And I had actually promised Raylene that I would send her my list of questions ahead of time. She wasn't going to share them with Michael, but I'm a little bit of a slacker, and I just wrote them up like an hour ago. So there wasn't a chance of Michael getting prepared for what I'm going to ask, because nobody's seen this list but me.
And that's a good thing, because he didn't want them anyway. So yeah. That's great.
Right. And hopefully we'll also see some questions in the chat from community members as well. Full disclosure, I did reach out to some people for ideas on questions, so that these aren't necessarily all coming directly from me. But this one is question number 1. What's this I hear about you calling me intimidating?
Oh, I like that one. I like that one a lot.
Wow.
Am I scary?
You can be a little terrifying. I'm not going to lie about that.
Right.
So this morning, I was all like excited until you walked into the room, and I'm like, this could go poorly very quickly.
I know we really should have been. I should have captured a few pictures of your face, really, while you were sitting over there waiting in anticipation.
Yeah, I mean, here's the truth of the matter is Sarah, you've been on school board how long?
Off and on since 2017.
Right. So you've got a significant amount of experience with the school board. You also have children that have been in the school, and you have all this experience, and you're asking me questions who really have only been involved with the school board process for the last 6-8 months. It would be kind of like if you came in and were running for city council and I was asking you questions. I assume that, well, maybe you wouldn't feel very intimidated, but, yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, a little
Fair
bit.
enough. Fair enough. All right. So the real first question, and kind of leads into this, what do you think the role of a school board member is, and how will you approach this position if elected?
Sure. So I will actually approach this position similar to the way that I do city council. We're oversight. We certainly direct the manager to do things. If there's like ordinances would be kind of similar to policies for you guys. We don't get much crammed down from the state regarding policies or ordinances, but we do have to deal with that. And you guys also have committees. We have to deal with that as well. It's actually very much the same, except for one is school and one is the city council. The difference really is with the children and how the effect is on the children of what we do on the larger scale. But it's basically oversight for the most part.
Okay. Thank you. What do you think the biggest challenges are facing our schools today? And that can be on a local level or globally.
Local level is
Local level or globally.
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that part. I apologize. One of the problems that we have in our community is certainly the morale issues with our school teachers and our staff in general. There is a huge problem there. I am not going to deny that. I don't want to get too negative about the next thing that is a problem. But we do have some issues with proficiency rates. I don't think that we can. I think the problem with that has a lot to do with COVID, and a lot to do with socioeconomic issues that are within our community, and those are probably the largest problems with our school system here. And as for globally, it's probably the same thing.
I would agree. On that same note, what do you think the challenges will be in the next year or the next 5 years?
All right. Well, this is where I'm going to get the hate. So, I think we need to move forward on consolidation and restructuring of our schools. And with that, I probably just made a lot of people very angry. However, there has been conversations on the school board level. They are moving in that direction. I think that I think it's currently 5 to 10 years plan, correct?
That's what's been discussed, yes.
Yeah, I think we should knock that down to 2 to 5. I think that, and not like full, I think that we start small. Children that are going into pre-K, they should be coming together. At the end of the day, I live in Barre. My zip code is 05641. And I think that having that distinction between Barre City kids, Barre Town kids is not beneficial for our community. I think we are killing our budget because of how we're running our schools. We run our schools not as one BUUSD. We run it as 3 distinct schools. And we do that because we're bound by Article 3 and Article 4 of the Articles of Agreement. We cannot restructure. If we wanted to put 8th grade in with the Spalding High School, we can't do that. We don't have the ability. That is in the Articles of Agreement, and that does need to change. That will certainly, that's what we should be doing within the next, what you said, 3 to 5 years?
5 to 10?
5 and 10.
Yeah, you're the one that said.
I said, well, I
knock
think,
it down.
yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but the cost savings alone for actually merging our schools is huge. Not to mention that a lot of the struggles with staffing could be helped with that. We could not lower our staff, but we could organize our staff better if they were not divided by a school. And like I said, I probably just made a lot of people angry.
I'm not sure you have as many haters as you think. On that note, what are you suggesting? Are you saying we should have like a pre-K through fourth grade, a fifth and sixth grade? Are you suggesting moving seventh and eighth grade to the high school? What are your thoughts?
Sure. So let's start with the elephant in the room. Not me. The elephant in the room is the career center. That's not staying with us. We know that's not going to happen. They're going to want to have their own facility elsewhere. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in Berlin. At that point, we have a very large amount of space in Spalding High School. What do we do with that space? Ultimately, probably what we should do, and this is not something that's done immediately. First off, it's going to take years to build the new career center if they choose to go that way. But once they are out, then we have a conversation about slowly combining that the eighth, the seventh into that school. Maybe make it so that there's two schools for younger kids and then for the older kids. I think U32, and I don't know if you know the makeup. Do you know what grades go into U32?
I believe it's 7th through 12th. I'm not positive
12.
on that, but that's
that's kind of what I think we will end up having to move towards. That's what I would support. Regarding which school would we close, that's something that we would have to have a conversation about, a very robust conversation. The difference between shipping kids to Barre Elementary School and Barre Town School is like 3 minutes. So it's not that big of a deal. Did that answer your question?
It did. It actually surprised me because I think the conversation so far has been about keeping all three. And just to be clear, there's actually 4 school buildings.
Correct.
We have the C program up on Allen Street as well. But the conversation that's been kicked around is actually keeping all of the buildings and just shifting the grades. But what you're suggesting is actually closing down one of the buildings, which would obviously cut down on costs.
It would have a significant, and that's really scary for folks. I think that's really scary for folks. It is what it is. And who knows, maybe we could increase our C building capacity and bring them over to the Barre Elementary School and take care of it, that expand it in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an idea to kick around, and I get what you mean when people say it's scary. But we've actually done this before. We had all our local ward schools here in Barre City, and they combined into one. What was that, 96? So 95 can be done, but it's definitely an idea.
And it was a scary time then too. I mean, I was in school. I remember that going down. It was very interesting. It was definitely politically hot. It made a lot of people angry. I actually support the local neighborhood schools. Very supportive of that. I know that model is extremely expensive. I think there's some significant benefit to having a local neighborhood school, but we're not there. Right? If we had that conversation about having local micro schools versus what we currently have, and if it was the same price, I would go in that direction for certain. But now that we are the way that we are, it's not that much of a difference between shipping, and I say shipping, that sounds very busing our children to one school or the other. There is no difference. Because your kid has no idea if they're going to the Barre City School or the Barre Town School. So if they don't have any idea, then there's no need to have the town or the city school. But that's a huge issue, and like I said, that will make a lot of people angry. Not in Barre City.
Well, luckily, only Barre City people will be voting for you. All right, shifting gears a little bit. Over the past year, there has been some conversation surrounding the length and frequency of our meetings for both the full board meetings and committees. What are your thoughts on this?
Sure. Well, last night I I was the deputy mayor, and I was the mayor for last night. And we spent 45 minutes doing public comment. And I think that a lot of the time that's spent has to do with public comment. I could have shut it down. I did not. I looked at the room. I saw that there was like 15, 20 people in there, and made the executive decision without the, council's thought process into it, and just said, let them speak, right? And then we had a dialogue that lasted a lot longer than what it normally would. Jesse Rosado came in. He spoke about the bus, the Green Mountain Transit. And we had a pretty protracted conversation about it. Erica had a conversation. It was almost like an agenda item. And Bernadette Rose, she was there talking about how she was stepping down from the ADA committee. We had some conversation around that. And then we also had some conversation around the Rainbow Bridge, whether or not to put that on the ballot. It wasn't just, it wasn't so quick, right? I understand that in positions of governance, where you represent a community, you may have to deal with going to really long meetings. And I am not a fan of really long meetings, but I also don't I don't like people feeling stifled when they talk. I don't like being stifled when I'm talking. And I know that other people that come in and they want their voices to be heard, hey, sometimes that's not going to be okay, right? You have 150 people in the room, you're getting 2 minutes, right? And there is no conversation back and forth. I do not criticize anyone that would cut that off. That makes perfect sense. You just can't do that. That's not fair to the administration that's there. It's not fair to the volunteers that are there, because even though you get a stipend of what, $2,500, yeah, that's not enough for it's not that much, and so it's a volunteer position. Could you make the meetings go a little faster? Absolutely. When we had a conversation about BADC, the conversation was to have them in the budget versus not in the budget. The 50% that our mayor said was outrageous, but he's used a different word. I can't remember what it was. But it was $20,000. We voted, and I knew how the conversation was going, and I said, this is silly. Let's just vote on it and move on, right? So I made the motion, let's put it in the budget. I knew it was going to fail, but we just go through the process, get it done quickly. And then I made the motion to put it on the ballot, and that passed. It's sometimes you have to make the motions and just move on. And if the meetings are taking too long on issues that really no one's going to change their mind, maybe just call the question and move forward.
So
Great.
Speaking of moving forward, I think that we better ask a couple of the questions that are in the chat before we get too far ahead, and then they won't make sense anymore if we do that. A little bit ago, when we were talking, you were answering a question and you spoke of cost savings. And Nancy Leclerc would like to know what information you have to support it would be a cost savings?
Sure. Thank you, Nancy, for putting that there for a question. Let's be honest. 3 buildings is a little more expensive than 4 buildings. There's savings there alone. I think that's probably our biggest savings, but there's also, the savings with the superintendents, not superintendents, the principals. If we do have 3 schools, we currently have 2 in Spalding, 2 in
Right, because there's
Barre
co-principals
City.
and
Yeah.
So with the elementary and middle schools, there's an elementary principal and there's a middle school principal, and then there is an assistant principal
Yeah.
for each school.
Yeah. We run our schools like that's the way that it is. The only
still run
difference,
it like
that's
pretty
the way
much.
that I see it, and I will defer that to Sarah. Would you agree with that comment?
I would say, in what we've heard in the curriculum committee meetings, Karen Fredericks has been working diligently to try and get both elementary and middle schools aligned and their curriculums aligned. But there are differences at this point.
Yeah, we really have got to not do that, and that's a hard process, and you guys are working towards that, and I fully support moving in that direction. And yeah, there is savings, especially when you take into consideration that just staffing alone, if there's a case where a teacher can fill a spot, that's in Barre City or Barre Town, having that ability to remove a vacant position would be cost savings in itself.
And then from Michael Deering, we have, how do you feel about transportation being provided for Spalding?
I support transportation to Spalding. Now, that would be a significant cost increase. However, I don't know how much, and I would like to hear the numbers on it, because it's very possible that while you're busing kids younger, you could pick up the older as well. I don't know. So I will not be able to. I support the idea of looking into it. How's that sound?
Fine with me.
Sounds political?
Okay.
All right, let's go back to my list. How will you engage with different stakeholders in the community and ensure that you represent all of them?
Yep. So I do that now. I have the Barre Beat podcast, which is designed specifically to Barre Beat. Shameless plug on my show, which is designed to get information out there. The engagement aspect of things. People can talk to me. I don't mind chatting with people that I'm diametrically opposed to. As long as you can have a respectful conversation, I can have a respectful conversation. There are very few people that I am completely opposed to politically that I can't have good conversations with. And if I can't have good conversations with that person, there's probably a good reason why. And I'm not the only person that has that. And on the right and on the left, I have those issues. You can't be with everybody, but you can certainly listen to everybody. And I will listen to anybody. Doesn't mean I'm going to do anything, to to agree with them, but I will listen to people that talk to me.
Okay. So that leads into a couple more of my questions, actually. This wasn't on the paper, but since you mention it, just from my own personal experience, school board does take up quite a bit of time. Are you sure that you're going to be able to maintain the Barre Beat?
Yes. And if not, then, you know, I know somebody that's fully capable of doing it by herself.
We're talking about Raylene and not
Yes,
me.
we are talking about Raylene.
Just so everyone's
But you
aware.
can come and help.
Yes. I'm pretty confident I'll be able to do all. The difference between, you know, the fact is that I am a bachelor, right? You know, and Tom mentioned it this morning. Tom Lozon.
Right, you don't have
You
kids,
know,
you
I
don't.
don't have children,
Right.
and I'm sure that probably is in your question. One
It's
of your
not.
questions, huh?
It's not.
Oh, it's not?
No,
Oh.
I don't consider that to be an important aspect of sitting on school board.
Oh, great. Because I don't have children. But I don't have children. I have a very forgiving company that I work for community service. They are they are extremely supportive of volunteer service. That is extremely beneficial for me to be in this position. And the fact is that I just won't be able to play World of Warcraft as much, which I do have a friend that will be very disappointed with that. But I mean, technically, Sarah, I mean, I currently go to the board meetings. So, and I'm kind of doing the work. It's just I'm not doing the work, right? And I'm not saying I shouldn't say I'm doing the work, but you understand what I'm saying. If it was too much for me to handle, I know it certainly isn't unusual. I will say that Lucas Herring, who was an amazing mayor, and also an amazing city councilor and a personal friend, he was on school board and he was on city council. So wasn't Anita Chatterton. I think Anita Chatterton was on school board and city council. I think that, you know, there's room for people at the table, and even if they have multiple seats, it's not, you know, this is the max I will do. I'll say that. This is the max. The school board and the city council would be the max. And my term is up next year. Not saying that I'm not going to run, but just as a side note, you know, if I didn't run, it would be next year. I'm going to run. Just for
I
the
was gonna
record,
say.
I'm going to run.
Okay.
We're putting that out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting it out there. I'm pretty confident I'm going to run.
Okay. Do you want to check the chat?
Yeah, I think that we probably should, again, in case we don't want to get too far ahead. So, yeah, we have told her that we think she should do a regular show with us, Michael, the other Michael. We have from Josh Howard. What are your thoughts on the FOIAs from this past year and the actions of the August 25th?
All right. So the FOIA issue, is that me? I'm really sorry. I put it on Do Not Disturb.
Happens all the time here.
I know. The FOIA issue, I was the one that did the FOIA for the David Wells.
Mm-hmm.
I was told that information was not shared. When I heard that it wasn't shared, we're a small community, right? Like, everybody knows what happened. Everybody knows. It just, everybody knew that there was a separation. And when I heard that nobody knew what the separation details were, I was like, well, that's public information. You can ask for it. And when the person told me that they couldn't get it, I said, well, just do a FOIA. It's not that big of a deal. And I did the FOIA. It's information that's provided. I think that tomorrow night, actually, there's going to be a conversation about the FOIA process. The process that's laid out, I have some concerns, and I will certainly be voicing my concerns on that FOIA it's important to have transparency in our government. We talk about smoke-filled rooms, and I think that's overused a lot. But we do have to avoid the appearance of that. Some of the FOIAs were call it what they were. They were phishing exercises, right? And it is what it is, right? Like when you ask for like a really large range of things that it's kind of like a phishing exercise. I think you can weaponize FOIAs, but I think that again we get back to we're a small community, and asking for information should just come out pretty easily. That's the way I take it for city council. I would take, if somebody FOIA'd me for something, I would give it to them. And I probably just set myself up for a lot of trouble. But just remember, after 30 minutes, I will charge you. Yeah.
The next question is, what are your thoughts about behavior issues that have been brought to the board on and off for the last year?
Yep.
Or probably longer. And then the very next question is kind of the same. So I'm going to tell you what this says too. How do you feel about how to handle the violence that's in our school district right now?
So this is where I'm going to disagree with Sarah. I believe we should have an ad hoc committee. And it sounds contrary to my comments about oversight. You're right. It is contrary to my comments about oversight. But there seems to be a problem. I think that having a dedicated group of people trying to look into it and trying to fix it, to give some suggestions to the board on how to fix it, is really beneficial. I also think that discipline issues are family issues. You as a parent should be taking care of your kids when there's a problem. We are allowing our schools we're relying on our schools to do stuff that as parents you should be doing.
And what if there are parents that can't and don't?
Yep.
How do you
so that is the question. What do you do?
Because there are a lot of them.
And that's the issue. How do you deal with that? I have to ask the question, do we, and this sounds very cold, but if a child is acting out or being abusive, do we continue to put them into that spot where they're going to be acting out or abusive and cause issues within the class, right? I think of when I was a Sunday school teacher for my church, and we would pick up children on the bus and bring them to church, and we brought in a lot of children that you would have those standard problems, right? The behavioral issues. I didn't allow it in my classroom. When I taught, I ended up sending children that were out, going outside of what I would consider as acceptable behavior. I would send them upstairs. And nobody wanted to do that. I will say that. But did that answer the question? I don't know if that really answered the question, but
I've got a follow up to that because as you mentioned, we do disagree a little bit on this.
Yep.
So say there is this creation of an ad hoc committee, knowing that almost everything is confidential and information can't be given out. Regardless of what they find, what their suggestions are, how do you propose that the board take a role in that? Because the board's not in the school.
Correct. The board would make suggestions to the superintendent, and the superintendent would have to do what the board says.
Okay.
But if, the ad hoc committee comes back and says, hey, this is not fixable, then we have done what we should do, which is try to fix the issue. And, at least we tried. And I feel like, well, what do you mean there's not how do you can't fix it? Well, then I don't know. I need to know, right? And we don't have the information right now. And you may have the information, because it would be an executive session conversation, because you are correct. There would be personal, confidential information, which as a school board member, you should be able to view that information, similar to city council. We are able to view personal and confidential information regarding our employees. You should 100% be able to not say anything, right? When there's an issue. That is part of that position. It would be if you wanted to sign like a non-disclosure or something like that, if it would make anybody feel better. But that is part of that position. The school board used to do discipline panels. We don't have those anymore. There's something to be said about a kid coming before 10 people and saying, hey, you know what? I screwed up. I know there's something to be said about that, because I went before the school board when I was in high school, and I still remember it. It was actually in one of the rooms next to, then it was Mrs. Chickering's office, I think.
Guidance counselor.
Yep.
She was mine too.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, a lot of information is given in executive session.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to pivot away from that. Into everybody's favorite topic. So the largest aspect of our education budget is always going to be salaries and wages and benefits. What experience or insight do you have in negotiating collective bargaining agreements, and how would you approach this?
Sure. I would recommend that someone like, let's see, if I'm on school board, Sonia, Giuliano, Chris Parker, Terry, Nancy, Paul, Alice, who am I missing?
Me.
Well, not you, because you won't be on there, and Tim won't be on there. So any of those people should probably deal with that. I've actually never done contract negotiations, because I know my biases, and it's hard for me with negotiations, because it's better for someone to bring it to me, because I can get very heated over contract negotiations. I think of our police department, and I love all our city staff, and I don't think any of them would think differently. I do struggle with unions. There's no doubt about that. But I know that I struggle with unions, and it would be unfair to put me on a negotiating team that is working with unions.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
All right, that's fair.
But I will say this. Now I'm going to throw this in there. Sorry. We certainly need to make sure that we are paying the right amount for our staff, and that's city and for school board.
Okay. And by school board, you don't mean the stipend. You're talking about our staffing in the schools.
Okay. Yeah, school. Sorry.
Just to clarify.
Yes. No. I think I'm going to push for like a $60,000 raise on school board. Is that okay?
That stipend?
Yeah.
Okay.
In case anybody's listening, that was a joke.
You were at the last few meetings in which the Finance Committee proposed a 1.5% increase to the budget, in contrast with the administration's proposed 4.97%. What are your thoughts?
Well, I knew this question was going to come up. So, Yes. Let's first, I've dealt with budgets before. I deal with budgets with the city council. What usually happens is the manager will present the budget, right? And then city council will say, we want it at 3%. Then the manager will go back and provide what a 3% budget would look like. And we would look at that budget and say, well, not really a big fan of us getting rid of,
Sports,
5
field trips,
school
Spalding
resource officer.
SRO,
Right.
meeting
We're not
scribe.
a big fan of that. We're not a big fan of, I'm sorry, repeat that?
the meeting scribe.
Yeah, right. We're not a fan of that. We want to add that back in there. It's a process of going back and forth. And I think that it's incumbent upon the manager or superintendent to provide that information. I will be very frank. If I were on school board and I told the superintendent to provide me a 1.5% budget and the superintendent did not provide that to me for me to look at, I would not be very happy. I would be very disappointed. And that would probably be a conversation that I would be having. I don't know if we would have it in executive session. I would probably pull the person off to the side and say, hey, just present the budget at a 1.5. Let me know what it's going to look like. And then from there we move forward. That's the way that I think you should move for budgets. If somebody's asking for this year alone, Nicholas came to us with a 4.567, so I can't remember the percentage, and he presented it to us. I looked at it and I thought to myself, 8% inflation overall, not that bad that we got down to 4. I didn't really fuss at it. Last year, we had the capability of going to 0%. We didn't even have that conversation because people were pushing not the 0%. And I just at least have the conversation. But, would I be kicking down somebody's sandcastles? Yeah, probably kicking down sandcastles.
Down
'Cause
castles again.
That's what I do. I do.
I don't even know what we're gonna do with you.
All right. I see stuff popping up in the
Yeah.
chat. So you want me to pause?
So there's a few things. So first we have Heather Slayton that says that she would suggest becoming educated around the difference between standard behavioral problems, severe emotional distress, often caused by actual trauma, which could be many things, or lack of the ability to communicate, such as in the case of students with extreme special needs.
Mm-hmm.
If that is not what you mean, try to use less generalized language, please. Sending all kids back home for their parents to raise is not always the right/best option or what the kiddo
Sure.
needs.
So let me just address that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heather, in the comment that I said creating an ad hoc committee. A committee that would have to learn that information. I'm not familiar with it, but if I was part of that ad hoc committee, I would assume that people like you, people of information, would be able to provide that, and I would be able to add that into the conversation.
And then we have from Alice Farrell, we have board responsible for making sure that schools run well. Administrative staff manage day to day. What do you see as the line between overall management and micromanagement?
Yeah. So I keep saying so a lot. That's a little bit annoying. I'm just going to point that out.
You said
there.
it.
I know. I can't help it. Micromanaging is a huge problem. I had that problem with counselors on city council. I was not impressed with some micromanaging that was going on. I look at micromanaging more of me going down and telling Janet to do something. That is a little inappropriate. In fact, it's wildly inappropriate. Now, me sending an email to Janet and carbon copying Nicholas so that Nicholas knows about it, then it's a little bit different. But when you are, yeah, it's a fine line. I'll just say it's a fine line, and I'd like to say you'll know it when you get there.
So in that email, are you directing Janet to do something, or are you requesting information?
I'm asking for information.
Okay.
Or, so for example, we had on Monday, a constituent called me and talked to me about power lines and how there are trees over the power lines. I sent an email to Nicholas and I said, hey, can you have city staff go down there and take a look at that? Also, I reached out to Green Mountain Power and said, hey, there's some trees over the lines. Can you go take a look at that? Would that be considered micromanaging? Depends on who you're talking to. I don't think that's micromanaging. If it's something that a regular citizen could do, then it's not micromanaging. I don't think that the board has the ability individually to micromanage.
So, for example, if a board member went to central office to one of the business office staff and requested information to be printed and documented and put in their hands.
What's the difference between asking for it and an email?
It's information that's not meant to leave the building.
What information cannot leave the building? That's my...
Okay.
Because I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just... Because again, we get into the FOIA comment. Is that information that can leave the building? Are we talking about... So at that point, if it's a lot of paper to be generated, then we talk about, well, it costs 2 cents, right, per paper, which I don't think that's the amount. There was actually an amount sent forward in the procedure for the FOIA requests. Am I correct? I know I'm correct on that.
Yes. To be honest, I haven't fully reviewed the packet because
because
I'm here tonight.
Sorry. Yeah, there was a, I want to say, 2 cents doesn't sound right. It was probably like 20 cents or 50 cents per paper. If the school board member is individually going down there asking for paper copies, and the procedure is that unless you can find a valid reason as a school board member to have it, I don't think that I think you would fall underneath the FOIA process.
Okay.
I might be wrong on that, but I think also that if I went down to City Hall and asked for, can you print me out the budget? I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't have gone to City Hall. Well, I would have, because I would have asked Nicholas for it. Nicholas would have just printed it for me. There would be no issue.
But are we talking about just budget, or are we talking about more personal
to be honest,
information than that?
We should probably just move on because I'm aware of a situation that I found inappropriate. But
Okay.
because
for me,
I shouldn't be putting that out there right now.
The kind of just the way I took it. The way I took the question, I would take issue with it too, and I would just then, and the way I took it, I would have to say to you, can you leave your day job with a bunch of paperwork that's personal to somebody else? And no, you can't. It's against the law. You would be up shit creek. And I know, as somebody who worked as an administrator in a nursing home, nothing can leave the building if it pertains, if it has, even if it just has somebody's social security number on it. But when it starts to pertain to any insurance that they carry, any income that they make, there's a lot of things that are protected, not just under this, but under state law. And there's a lot more. So I don't know. I would question going to get some things. I think there needs to be a line.
Yeah, I mean, if I went down, bringing it into city council stuff, if I went down and said, hey, I want the personal medical history on claims for, somebody,
Right.
they would probably say no. And be like,
as they should.
As they should. And if they did allow me to, they would say, and that would never happen. I mean, that wouldn't ever happen. That kind of stuff there are stuff that, if it's something that you can get under a FOIA, I'm not sure why there's a problem with providing it to a school board member. And, even to the fact that technically printing it, I probably would say that it would be okay, right? Because, I mean, you are part of the district. You're a school board member. And if you want some sort of information that's not inappropriate, like, I wouldn't be able to go down and ask for Carol Merrill's, medical history, or I don't even think I could ask for her, her reviews. I don't know if that's something we could.
Yeah, medical
It really just
information is
seems
definitely
really
not
weird.
public
Medical would
information.
obviously be crazy, but I mean,
If anybody ever obtained my medical information and thinking that they somehow could release it because it was public, I would have a lawyer so freaking fast their head would spin. I'm not kidding you. It's nobody's business but mine and my employers.
I'm not sure. I have to know what the information is before I can really make a good judgment on that.
Yeah. Okay.
I just, without knowing the type of information, maybe it's
See,
a
now
no.
you're getting me all pissy, and I don't even have anything to do with any of
See
this.
what I did here?
Yeah.
All right.
Did that help with the information that I don't know if I made any sense whatsoever.
We were supposed to be talking about micromanaging, so let's
okay.
let's
But we're going to
let's
move
jump back
on
to that.
because we have more, and we only have a short amount of time left, and we want to give you like a couple minutes at the end to say why why people should pick you. Not we, because I can't vote here in the city. Sorry, but your luck.
Okay. So still considering budget. So much of education funding in the state of Vermont is based upon factors that are outside of out of the school board or the taxpayers' control. Equalized pupil, CLA, yield, legislative decisions. If elected to the board, what approach would you take to help yourself understand the budget process, and how would you work to present a budget to the taxpayers who vote?
I hate budgets. I'm just going to be honest. I hate budgets. But that being said, I don't have like the Tom Lozon mind when it comes to numbers. Yeah, I can take 250, divide it by 17, or $14,000 and tell you it's 17 years, right? It's and that's referring to the Ward 5 school. But the budget process, I have to rely on people that know it inside and out. I would have to rely on the people that it's their job to do it, right? Would I want to be on the budget committee? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be on the budget committee. I would rather have you show me the budget that you want, and then I can say, well, let's look at the, what you're proposing. Let's take a look at the actuals, right, for the audit, and go down that route for that. But I don't know how many pencils a kid needs, right? I don't. That comes
Hundreds
from the
of
teacher.
thousands because they lose them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true. That's true. But
In
you
my
see what I'm
household,
saying.
anyways.
It's not something that that has to come from, the teachers. And so I can't. Does that make any sense?
So
Do I make any sense?
So
what
to
I'm saying?
paraphrase and make sure I'm considering what you're saying, you're saying that we should be relying on the people within the schools to set our budget?
So
Because I love that answer.
the thing that I'm saying is that we have to rely heavily on the school and what the people in the school want, but we also have to, as elected officials, set amounts like tax rates, right? We say, hey, we're okay with a 2%, and that's it. So work within the 2%, and that's something that I've done on city council. We've multiple times said people aren't happy with more than 2%. They want that or below. Steve would come back with a 1.9%. He's the one that has to make that decision, and he showed us what would happen if we didn't do something.
Okay. That's fair. And I'm going to put this plug out there because I am used to talking to the public about the budget. Just because we say, a 1.5% increase in the budget, it doesn't necessarily equate to a 1.5% increase in your tax rate or your tax bill. There are many other factors that go into that. And some of them, we don't even get until after voting has taken place. So, I'll move on.
I will say, Sarah, regarding the presentation of it, I would certainly offer time, for presentation of the budget. Sonia's the chair, and I think she's supposed to be the spokesperson of the board. If she wanted to come in and present the budget, I would absolutely give her that time. I think that, digesting it and kind of spitting out a simplified version of a budget is really good for the community. I think of what Nicholas did. I mean, he came on the Barre Beat on Monday last week. Wait, no. Was it this week? Yeah, the week before. Okay. Yeah, he came on and he presented the budget, told us what the percentage was going to be. He explained the impact on houses of 125,000, 150, and 200,000. That's really important. That communication to the community, and I think that's yeah.
I would agree. And I think last year we had our superintendent on Aired Out talking about it. And then the board will also publish, and the district will publish kind of a one sheet that gets mailed out to people. But it also will have a QR code that you can scan that goes to the website. And at least last year, I'm not sure how it's going to work out this year. Last year we had a kind of calculation there, so you could input the information on your income and whatnot, and it would kind of give an estimate on what it would do to your taxes. So hopefully we can get all of that information out to people this year too.
Great. And when you do, you know where to go.
Okay. You've kind of covered a lot of my questions without me asking them. If a large group of parents and or community members came to a meeting to give feedback about an issue that is in conflict with how you might approach the same issue, how would you handle a decision or your vote on the board?
Yeah. Well, that has happened multiple. There are issues that when people fuss about them, I don't vote the way that I originally wanted to vote. I think of, there's going to be issues, of course, that's not going to change my mind, right? Like I'm never, no matter how many people come before city council and complain about putting the flag up on Main Street, never going to change my mind on that. I'm just not. If there's just there's certain things that that obviously no matter how many voices, it won't change. And that's for everybody. Everybody has that. The outcry of people, if it's something that I truly, truly disagree with, but also feel that there is a huge amount of people that really, really don't want something, I have been known to abstain from a vote. Mm-hmm. For example, alcohol licenses. I grew up, my father had some, I shouldn't have said that. Our family had some issues with alcohol. And I do not like what happens when people drink a lot of alcohol, and I just abstain from it. And I can't support it. At least where I am right now, I just can't, given the history. So I abstain because I know that Ward 2 doesn't have that problem. You know, it is what it is. It's the same thing with, marijuana. I have an issue with that too. And I abstain from it because I know that, I have to represent my community. And sometimes, when there's something like that, you just abstain from it.
Okay, that sounds fair.
I could go all night.
I know, but I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
So my last question was, I think, the same as Raylene's. Is there anything else that you would like people to know before they either mail in their ballots or head to the polling sites come March?
Yeah. I want you to be informed. I put my name in the hat early so that you had plenty of time to get to know who I am. I'm not posting on Front Porch Forum. I think that I prefer Front Porch Forum not being a political dump. But, not a dump. I shouldn't say that. I get a little frustrated when I see like thousands of posts all about politics in Front Porch Forum. So I don't post on there. If you want to have a conversation, you can go to facebook.com/Boutin for Barre and have the conversation there. I'm posting daily on the issues. That's important to me. I want people to know things. There's a reason why I do the Barre Beat podcast, so that people can get that information. I've already forgotten the question that you asked. Repeat that. I went on
anything you want people to know.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I was born somewhere else, but I was raised here in Barre City. I went to Spalding Graded. I went to North Barre School. I went to Ward 5 as a kid. The school system is very important to me. This is where I came from. Barre is my home. I love this community. I serve it as a city councilor, and I think I can serve it as a school board as well, on the school board.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You want to know my why, though?
Oh,
yes.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you. And now could you please tell us your why?
Yeah. So I actually did a post on this of what my reasoning is.
Mm-hmm.
12 years on city council, I have, and the older that I get, the more I think about Barre as a whole. And, I remember growing up with the Barre City, Barre Town thing. When we moved to the BUUSD, I supported that vote. And, partially because I knew that we were going to get $5 million to do the shotgun marriage no matter what. So you might as well just get the money. But the longer I'm serving and the more I think about it, I feel that we're at a point where we can create the foundations to a more cohesive Barre, one where you don't get the "I'm from the town, I'm from the city" kind of mentality. I think that we have a long way to go for the municipality. Certainly, I'm not going to deny that. People complain about our roads. It's the equivalent of me complaining about Montpelier's roads. Montpelier's not as good as ours. But people say that Barre town were not as good as theirs for their roads, right? And I think that the school system is a way to create those foundations for the future of a whole. That's what my goal is. It's a dangerous goal.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, honestly. The schools are our unifier, both, whether you're from the city or the town, you end up at Spalding High School. So it's a great start.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And you know how I feel about that. I've always been very vocal about that. That for me, there is no division. And for people we all are constantly wanting to be inclusive, but we want to exclude some. And it just, I think we're sending a lot of mixed signals and information to our kids right now. And it's my opinion that that's some of the problem even. And so we need to find a way somehow to build the bridge.
Bring it all
I guess
together.
we're all going to do it, but, good luck to you on that.
I have faith in you all, and everybody. I think there's a lot of good out there.
Yeah, and I do too. I think we'll get there somehow, some way. So,
Yep.
Any last words, Mr. Michael?
Go to the school board meetings, be involved in the process, be involved in city council. Obviously, watch the Barre Beat podcast, like and subscribe on YouTube. More information is better. And ignore the fact that it says it's a year in review, a Festivus for the rest of us. I didn't update the thing properly. We'll fix that later.
Do you have anything else?
Well, thank you for having me. And
we greatly appreciate that you came down here.
Yeah.
Past your bedtime. My mic my mic and my mouse keeps shocking me. I'm just gonna let you know that right now. And it's sticking to this mouse pad and it keeps shocking me and it's pissing me off. I've got nipped by this microphone 3 times.
Wait a minute.
It's
sticking?
the glitter. It's the glitter, isn't it?
Sticking.
Yeah, it's like staticky.
Oh, it's staticky.
Yes. And
what? Who uses a mouse pad?
Well, it's right here on the desk.
Move the mouse pad. Nobody wants
And then my
pad.
mouse just doesn't want to do anything because it's all I can hear it like zipping across the stupid mat.
But it's not like sticky because I'm not going to lie to you. When you said sticky, I was
figured
like,
that JD,
yeah.
did something again.
I mean, let's be honest. Is it outside of the realm of normal possibility?
No, not at all.
what did you guys invite me to?
Oh,
Sarah,
this
thank
is
you for
the more
coming, by the
moderate
way.
of some of it. Here,
Yeah.
look, this is what we deal. This is JD's cup. So in the morning,
Oh man,
he brings this cup in and he pours his cup from home into this cup and drinks out of it, just like that.
like that?
Yeah, like
We
this.
say ick.
He's one of those people who doesn't get sick a lot, right? Because he's got.
No, that man will eat anything. I'm telling you what. So
I did
anyways.
bring him those Reese cups, so.
Oh, and those were gone in about 2 seconds. But yes, thank you very much for coming and being willing to do this with us. I know it was hard. It's tough to do this. It's not easy, and so we greatly appreciate you. And thank you, Michael, for letting us grill you because it wasn't. We had to make sure that you had your opportunity as well, and I couldn't do it. I could have, but that would have been a little odd because I'm your co-host normally, and so.
Well, I appreciate Sarah coming
And
in,
so,
and I appreciate those that listened, and I ask that those that listen would share the podcast, and I would ask that people come out and vote on March 7th for me, and yeah.
And then you are going to look through all of these comments and deal with them.
Yeah, I think there's probably some questions in the chat that we didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
read to, but you can go back and backfill those, or
Sure.
or people could go out to
And
your.
most of that was truthfully because I couldn't spin this stupid mouse. I'm not kidding you. It's really giving me a hard time. So, anyways, thank you everyone for coming, and we will see you back here on the Barre Bee on Monday. And on Monday, we are going to have with us, is it Gina?
No,
Coming this Monday?
Rosemary Averill.
Oh, yes,
She is
Rosemary.
running for Ward 2. And we have former Mayor Lucas Herring.
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, good.
Yep.
And so he
We'll
will
be
in
grilling
here as well.
Rosemary.
And now will I be over here again?
You will be.
That's right.
Oh, no.
No.
You'll be
Over here
in
with
you'll
Lucas.
be right next to Lucas.
Okay, good. You play with this mouse, and that'll work for me. So yes, tune in, and then tune in tomorrow morning, 9:00, around there, to Aired Out podcast.
Yes.
We are the lady from the you tell me her name, the sports lady, the coach. She's coming again.
What sports league?
Yes. Why can't I? Think
Michael,
of her
can you
name?
tell us that? I don't know who
Yes,
she's
Michael.
referring to.
She came on the show with you last time. Anyways, lots of stuff happening tomorrow morning. So tune in, and I can't look. Oh, Lori.
Lori.
Yes. Lori is going to come in tomorrow morning, and she's going to talk all kinds of things with us. Assistant women's coach. So we look forward to having her and dealing with all the rest of the stuff in the morning and tolerating JD. So tune in. We love you guys.